is Aaron Anglin. I'm assistant professor of entrepreneurship at Texas Christian University. There was really two driving motivations for this paper. One is simple. We wanted to know more about crowdfunding. There's not a lot known about the phenomenon of crowdfunding, yet it's a major player in venture financing. The other is a little bit more specific. We noticed a conflict between two areas of the literature. There's this concept in leadership where people that convey confidence and optimism and resilience, all part of this construct we call psychological capital, can motivate other people to do things. They can get them to do what they want. However, in the venture finance literature, a dominant theory there is signaling theory, which simply suggests companies can only motivate investors if they engage in these costly activities. Like they have a prestigious board member or they have a prototype. And it completely downplays the fact or the ideas in leadership that if you just act in a certain confident, optimistic manner, that you can motivate people to do something. Investors should not act on this. There's a caveat though. There's a small stream of literature called costless signaling, which essentially suggests these things like optimism, confidence can work in situations where the audience is unsophisticated, there's not a lot of risk involved, and there's a lot of ambiguity in the situation. And so we're looking at this conflict and we're like, oh my gosh, that sounds just like crowdfunding, where the investors are not putting a whole lot of money. It's very ambiguous, you're funding people you don't know. So I guess this situation is completely different from the traditional financing. So we thought, you know what, I bet if you come across very confident, if you come across optimism or optimistic, if you have some stories about how you were resilient in the past, I bet this might matter here. And so that's essentially what motivated us to start looking into this whole concept of positive psychological capital, portraying these attributes and how that might influence fundraising and crowdfunding. We collected data from over 1,700 crowdfunding campaigns, and we used a validated measure of psychological capital language. And so we essentially took the texts of the crowdfunding campaigns. We used a software to analyze the presence of this language in the narratives, and it'll spit back out numbers of how prevalent this sort of language is. And then of course, we can code for things like experience because people will talk about it. They'll mention the fact that this is my third company I've started, or I have 15 years of experience in the tech industry. We've essentially compiled this big database of all these crowdfunding campaigns, and then of course, because it's public, we can track how much money they raised, whether they met their goal, how many individuals decided to support them. We had a couple of interesting results. One, which we expected, was that conveying positive psychological capital matters. People raise more money, they're more likely to be successful. This effect gets stronger when it's combined with what we call human capital, in particular entrepreneurial experience or crowdfunding experience. We actually found it did not matter if you pair it with social capital, which is who you know. Having broader networks, having an endorsement, it actually did not interact with that. And we believe that is because, say, past experience and combined with psychological capital tells you a lot more about that individual, where social capital just tells you more about the network that they're in. So it's not quite the same thing. Now, because we expected this to be true in crowdfunding because of the characteristics of crowdfunding, we decided to actually test to see if it was unique to crowdfunding. So we collected another sample from Kiva, which is a different type of crowdfunding platform, and tested for positive psychological there, and we found it did matter again. Then we collected data from IPOs, and we found it did not matter. So it actually appears that this effect is likely unique to crowdfunding, which makes a lot of sense, because once you get into the IPO space, that there's a lot of risk involved. The investors are very sophisticated. So actually the traditional signaling argument holds in that case. Business angels is a very interesting question, because we know that passion matters for business angels, yet we also see in VCs where passion does not matter. So angel would be an interesting line. I would imagine it does matter, because there's a lot more of the personal relationships built. You're looking at the character of the person more, you want to like the person more. So it seems like confidence and optimism would be things that are infectious to folks, and angels want to be around that type of person. My advice to those conducting crowdfunding campaigns, if you're optimistic about your campaign, show it. If you're very confident in what you can do, show it. I think some people hold back because they don't want to look cocky or they don't want to look overconfident or overly optimistic. But no, you should show it. Crowdfunders want to see these things. If you have a story about how you were resilient in the past, you've overcome some challenges, tell us about it. We want to know these sorts of things.